Hello, everybody, and welcome to a little different video today, a more theoretical video on Palantir, because Palantir is one of those stocks that I've been following for a while, and it's down 11% because the market is very, very short term and stressing out about short term concerns and not looking at the bigger picture and not looking at kind of the theory of innovation and why maybe not Palantir, but what Palantir represents will eventually become really, really huge in the future. Full disclosure, I'm a shareholder in Palantir. I believe in this company, not investment advice, but in this video, I want to take the bigger picture. So let me start with the more obvious things. What are we talking about with Palantir? What are we investing in? We're investing in a company that helps companies make decisions. So when we're talking about decisions, we're talking about management. Palantir is a company that helps you manage other companies, that helps you manage business processes. So Palantir, that's why sometimes many people compare it to a consulting business. They help you make better decisions. We have to go back to the theory. What are human decisions at their core? Like, what are managers? Managers, they make decisions based on cognitive processes. That is all it is. And what are cognitive processes? Well, it's attention to discrete information, the one you can see, the one you can't see, and the one you ignore. It's memory. How much can you memorize yourself as a manager? How much can the whole organization's managers memorize? It's perception. What do you perceive, right? Our eyes, for example, perceive much less than, say, a digital camera in a car. So that's why perhaps we shouldn't be driving, because we're not as good at that. What we perceive, what are our sensory perception, and reasoning, what we reason. There's many more cognitive processes, but this is what this counts for, right? So this is what data is. We use data to make business decisions. And Palantir is a software that is leaning towards data-driven operation of businesses. So it is a software that is going to first enhance the cognitive abilities of people in companies, and I believe with data apps eventually replace those cognitive capabilities. And in every single way, if you think about this critically, in every single way, including creativity, which one of the processes I did not include here. In every single way, computers are going to be better than us. And so if it works for chess players, if it works for Go players, if it works for debaters, it's also possible, and it likely will work for business processes. And so this is the business that we're after. We're after a very, very big picture. And so when you wrap your head about that, Palantir has the ability to greatly reduce the amount of human-driven management. You understand why the committee is very crazy about Palantir, and the community loves Palantir, and why they make comparisons, for example, with Google. Like that's clearly what you can understand with Palantir. So now that I've made it clear that we're talking about decisions and making decisions here, and we're talking about overcoming the limitations of humans in decision making, we can go to a little bit of a diagram that I built to explain my vision of Palantir. And this is the way I view it. Feel free to tell me whether you agree or disagree, but this is the way I view it and why I invest in this company. So first, companies relied only on human decision. Only human-driven behaviors were running companies. So managers relied only on their experience, their education, what they had seen before. Very, very highly limited. And the relationship that the analogy for this would be driving a car. If you're driving a car on your own, an old car without anything, without GPS, without nothing, you are doing a fully human-driven behavior. You're managing the vehicle, you're driving the vehicle. Companies, all of them, used to be run like this. And within the past 10 years, we've entered another era, which is that of hybrid decisions, where now managers mix their experience, education, intuition, knowledge with data that computers have analyzed for them. And this data is typically analyzed and presented in the form of dashboards. So when it comes to my analogy for Palantir, the dashboard would be the GPS. Are you driving with a GPS? Are you driving with an odometer, speedometer? Are you using all of these information that the car tells you? Are you using this dashboard to drive the organization? That's the current era that we're in. Management capability is enhanced by dashboards coming from all sorts of different cloud organizations, coming from Tableau, coming from Datadog, coming from Snowflake. Dashboards are enhancing managers' decision. And what is the future that we're headed towards? The grand future that I think we're headed towards, again, you don't have to agree with me, but the grand future is a data-driven software decision world. A world where companies are run by themselves and by their data. And the role of managers and the role of humans comes into building the software, building the machine that builds the machine, to quote Elon Musk. That's the future. The future to me is companies operate and run largely by themselves. And by the way, this is what most of the big tech companies do. If you look at Google or Facebook, it's pretty much operated by itself with a very small workforce who's only in charge of building, growing the company. But they are not in charge of day-to-day operations. So managers and engineers build the company in the form of software. They build the software. And then it's the company that runs itself with data-driven decisions that its software make. This is a data app. The company runs itself. Whilst in the past, you had managers making decisions based on their experiences, today based on dashboard. And in the future, I believe it will be the software that will make the decisions on its own. And the managers and engineers will be there to build the corporation, to extend the corporation, to give a direction, to give morality, ethics to the corporation, but they won't be running the corporation. It will be the software, and we'll be here to maintain the software. This is, I think, where the world of enterprise is headed, and why I believe in Palantir. And I think investing in Palantir is probably a good idea because we've been doing this for a long time. This was the original 0 to 1 move that Peter Thiel had when he founded Palantir. So let me move on here. This is kind of how I see the world of decisions within enterprises right now. You have the legacy businesses, Accenture, McKinsey. I suggest you look at how many hundreds of thousands of employees these consulting firms hire. They are here to give advice and consulting advice and tell managers how to run their business. That's the old way. These are very old companies, and it's consulting. Consulting is humans telling other humans how to run your business better. Today, the big companies are what? They're companies like Snowflake or Databricks. These companies enable the data that corporations have siloed all over the place, and for Snowflake, actually siloed in their entire ecosystem. So all of the partner firms, the customers. So you take all of that information, you take all of this data feed, and this data feed arrives then in dashboards, and managers can better make hybrid decisions based on those dashboards that they get from companies like Snowflake or Databricks. And right now is the era of dashboards. We are in the era of hybrid management decisions where managers go hand in hand with their dashboard and with their tools, where managers use tools to make their decisions. That's the era we're in. That's why Snowflake has insane growth, more than 100% a year growth. That is why, because they provide the tools of today. But that's not where we're headed. And notice how I put Snowflake and Databricks kind of in the middle between data-driven and hybrid. Because Snowflake 4 months ago just announced that they were moving into data apps. Databricks has always had an ML AI focus that has at a side of its business also well rooted into the data-driven era. So these companies are slowly moving into data-driven. I think Accenture is slowly moving again up in that scale of decision making, but they are much slower because they're behemoth, they're large corporations. What is the company that is already doing it? The company that is already doing it, and notice how I adjusted for market cap. This is much smaller than Snowflake, because Snowflake is a bigger company. The companies that are already doing it are companies like Palantir. Palantir is already doing that. So I think you're investing into the future. Just like if you invest in Tesla, you invest in self-driving. No driver is needed soon, right? Drivers are going to be obsolete because it's just software who's going to drive the car, and software engineers at Tesla headquarters who are teaching the software how to drive better. But in the future, I don't think you'll be driving cars anymore. The software will, right? So that's obsolete. The dashboard and the GPS to drive, that's obsolete. I believe Palantir will probably make a whole bunch of consulting companies and apps obsolete in the management of the enterprise sector, because all of a sudden you can rebuild the apps to manage the enterprise. You can rebuild them on Palantir. You can rebuild them in the form of a data app, right? What they call the ontology. You can rebuild them entirely in Palantir. And that's also why Snowflake, very smart company, very smart leader, that's why they're releasing a product, because they know the future is here, right? And what's even beyond that, it's a little out there, but what's beyond that, well, is AGI, right? Look at tools like GPT-3 and DALL-E. You don't think they can be creative? I mean, if you try DALL-E, you'll understand quickly that, for example, creativity does not only fall under the purview of humans. Computers can be creative too. So there may be something even bigger than decision making in the future. Decision making is just the number one thing that we see grab, but we may be able to grab also creativity in the future, being fully delivered by computers. But that's where Palantir is. So Palantir will revolutionize decision making within organizations, provided that they actually keep their lead, and that Snowflake doesn't take their business, because Snowflake has a much better sales team. I mean, if you look at the Palantir community, if you follow, Palantir is not that good at sales. They're getting better. They're not that good, right? So this is where it's played. This is where the future is, and this is where I think it's worth investing. Now, why should you not worry or not be in a hurry with Palantir? So let me show you this chart that I built here. So right now, most businesses are still human-driven businesses. And this is where we have some of the dashboards right here, right? So we have a little bit of data, a lot of human, and that's how we see dashboards coming. And the more we will evolve on this curve, the fewer human decisions we're going to make, and the more the data, the more the software is going to make the decisions for you. I believe we're right here. We're probably right here. And the reason why I drew this like this is because, like everything in technology, the adoption curves are exponential. They are not linear. When that happens, when companies pick up on this and start adopt this, the adoption will not be linear. It will be exponential. That's what happened to Tesla, right? Tesla had exponential growth. That's what happened to the telephone. That's what happened to the car. That's what's happening to solar energy right now. These are exponential growth curves. And I believe we're around here in that growth curve. I put it right here. I think a year or two, but I mean, we could be right here, right? We could have to wait. Who knows? It's really tough to tell, but we could have to wait 3 or 4 more years. I don't know if we're going to have to wait 4 or 5 years for Palantir to take the bunch of the market share, or if we're going to have to wait 1 year. But the market is not giving them credit for a future that I think they are well on their way to owning. And by the way, that will not necessarily put out of business companies like Snowflake or Accenture. Businesses tend to be additive, right? But I just think that data management is one thing, data lakehouses are one thing, Data apps, building data apps on top of all of these different processes is another thing. So there's room for companies to thrive, but the exponential growth in Palantir did not even begin. Not investment advice, but I don't think that exponential growth begins. But when it begins, get ready for people to be very surprised at how organizations are going to be changed. So Snowflake's thriving right now, 100% growth. Foundry and Palantir not growing as fast because their software is, as the CEO rightly says, too advanced. People don't understand what we do because they're early. And so we need to be aware of that risk. They're a little early. But that's why Palantir does things like this for its commercial software, right? They'll have dashboards. So this is from a presentation from Palantir on a water treatment plant, and they promote the dashboard. And so the dashboard has a push notification, and that's one way that you can sell Foundry to companies by explaining them how it fits within their current organizations, how it fits with their own structural inertia. You know, companies have all of this staff, they have all of these managers. You can't show them where the product is going to be in 10 years to get adoption. You have to show them where the product is now. And where the product is now is very much about dashboards, very much about notifications. And this is an example of that, where you have a dashboard with a push notification to the staff about what they need to do on the plant. So, for example, software control. So right now it's the plant or your store or whatever you think in the modern enterprise right now is mediated by operators, mediated by humans. There's a human that mediates the link between operations and software. In the future, I do believe that software will control operations directly. No field staff required. The operations will be directly controlled by the software. And this is why the military analogy that I'll make later is important, because military is ahead on a lot of things. But right now, we still have mediating staff. But the human role is, again, to build that software, to build that machine, which in turn controls the enterprise and grows the enterprise. It's a different role for us within organizations that we're going to have in the future, a very different role. And why would software be running the enterprise of tomorrow? Well, why would they do that? Well, I want to mostly focus on one reason, but in other videos, I hope to cover other reasons and what software does to solve these issues. But for example, we employees, we're expensive. We cost a lot of money. We have benefits. We're expensive to train. We retire sometimes. We quit. We sometimes lose motivation. I remember a recent interview of Elon Musk was saying, well, our problem is that our employees are getting wealthy, and so when they get to 35, they're like, I'm going to retire. Right? That's the problem. Or so we have these issues as employees. You know, another one is we make mistakes. Anybody makes mistakes. Look at the rates of failure for just about anything, like in driving. It's like 95% human error. Like we make mistakes because we get tired. We take a long time to train and retrain. So companies have tremendous inertia where employees have been in their roles for 20 years and all of a sudden disruption happens. How do you retrain your staff? It's very, very, very tough to do that, especially at the pace of change. And for the focus of this video, I just want to cover another important point is we are slow. And we are slow not compared to each other, but we're slow compared to computers. We are very, very, very slow. And in the context of data, being slow is a big issue in the context of data, because there is a concept called the time value of information. We all know the time value of money. Well, now let me introduce, and it's not from me, right? It's from CEOs in that field, but let me introduce the time value of information. Information expires. Old information 30 years ago is not going to be that useful, right? That's why a lot of universities are struggling, because we are teaching expired information. Old information expires, right? But it expires in a hyper fast context within organizations. So take the example of a push notification to field staff on Foundry for a water treatment plant. Imagine if there's a problem, there's a push notification, oh, you got to do something. You know, you have to pull a lever at the water treatment plant. Well, what happens? What happens if the field staff is on break? What if they're on lunch break? Can you wait 30 minutes? Can you wait an hour? Can it? Okay. Let me give you another example. Software detects information. Dashboard. The software tells you on the dashboard, you're about to crash in 10 milliseconds. Are most drivers who are amateur drivers, we are amateurs, most of us are amateurs when we drive, are we able to react fast enough? Computers are, but are we? Right? Let me move on to an even more shocking example. Time value of information. This was a $5 billion piece of information. The guard at the Notre Dame fire took 29 minutes to call because he went the wrong way in the cathedral. Took almost 30 minutes. That was the delay between the alarm and the call to the firefighters. Firefighters arrived in 10 minutes. So time value of information in that situation, you have to ask yourself the question, will the guard notice the fire alarm quickly enough? That's human failure, right? So time value information in that situation was $5 billion for 30 minutes. So this is a critical issue that Palantir is solving, and why I believe from a first principles thinking, data applications, we humans with our own idiosyncrasies, we will build the software at our pace, but the software once built will operate the organization. The technology will operate the organizations, and we update the technology at our own human pace. I believe that is the future. And so when you see what happens to the time value of money, for example, and again, remember that these data apps act on much more than time value of money, right? They reduce error. They're just more efficient. They create productivity for organizations in so many different areas. But just focusing on the time value of information, how good are Palantir's military application, right? So how good is Gotham? Well, it's likely very good, and it likely does not involve much human input, which is probably the reason why the CEO can't tell us much about what they do. You know, the CEO always says, "Oh, without us, we'd have so many terrible things happen." Right? Terrible things happen without us, but we can't know. We can't really know. So perhaps we're not ready for this world right now. I believe this company is early, but eventually the world of business will greatly benefit from actually not having our information expire and acting on our information when it's valuable. That's just one of the many ways that data apps can unlock a lot of value. And again, as I've said, the short price movements here, they really don't matter as much to me. I just want to be there before the exponential adoption happens, whether it happens in 5 years or in 1 year. I just want to be there. And let's remember all what happened to Tesla investors. Tesla investors, realistically, what? They waited 4 years? Like it was 4 years of huge spikes and huge drops in the stock price, 4 years of criticism, 4 years of nobody understanding. And then as soon as the exponential adoption curve of EVs happened, Tesla has begun its exponential rise. Why does Tesla do that? Because EVs are a 0 to 1 move. They are one to 2 orders of magnitude better. 1 to 2 orders of magnitude better than gas car. How many orders of magnitude better is it to have a data software operate your organization versus a human-driven software? A data-driven software is a 0 to 1 move. It is going to be orders of magnitude better, and companies will have no choice but to adopt it quickly. And they will want to adopt it quickly because of the productivity that this will trigger. And I hope the time value of money example was striking as to where we're headed. The future is composed of managers, engineers, people building and improving software and the software itself, the data-driven software itself running the organization. I believe that is the future. That's why I'm in the stock. Not investment advice. Good luck out there with your investing, and don't be alarmed about the drop. I wouldn't be. Have a great day. Thank you for watching my video. Bye.